Right. We are live. We're going to wait a whole, 13 seconds. It's very precise until we start to see if we've got any of the viewers creeping up. If you are viewing us for the first time, and this is your first time on our YouTube channel or our Twitter, please do make sure you give it a subscribe and a like. Really appreciate anybody joining us on the channel to talk about what was. Jason, how would you describe this game in one word?
Boring.
I knew you were going to say it. Pre-recording, I said to Jace, I can usually judge a game by if he's falling asleep or not. Didn't fall asleep during this game, though, which is good news, I suppose.
No, but it was a struggle, right? It was a little bit of a struggle. It was a passive game.
Yeah, definitely. But look, there's only one podcast you can come to listen to two guys talk about a team that are now top of the league after beating a team 2-0 at home to then call the game boring and passive. So, where else are you going to get that content from?
Not a Man United or a Liverpool podcast, apparently.
No, I mean, they're not. Until tomorrow, maybe. Let's see.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're joining us for the first time, give us a subscribe, give us a like. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about Arsenal 2, Luton 0 at the Emirates. A passive, boring game, as Jason said. And we're gonna move straight into how we start every single show. It's the Rip Room review. I'm going to hand the baton to Jace, who's going to talk us through his views on Arsenal this week.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always started right by saying it's a bit boring. It was a bit of a boring game, to be honest. I just struggled to get into it. Even the Man City game at the weekend, for me, it was more engaging, even though you could say that we played quite defensive for parts of that game. I was more engaged. There was just more intensity as a fan, more on the line. The Luton game, I think I messaged you from the start, right? Saying like, we should absolutely smash this lot. The way Luton were playing, defending especially, and the way we were just threading balls through, that should be entertaining. But the problem was we just didn't have the clinicalness, and we didn't have our first team out. We made so many changes, and that's for me what just kind of, it took away the intensity, it took away the excitement of the game. You couldn't compare it to the Sheffield United game when we absolutely, it was like getting fun. It was like, how many are we going to score? When you're playing a poor side and you just want to see goals galore, and it just wasn't going to be that. So yeah, we did the job. Tick in the box, did the job. And the only thing I wanted to add to my review was that a few years ago, if we put a second string side out, we might have struggled at a game against Luton. And now our second string side, our bench, is good enough to easily brush off someone like a Luton. However, and I think we might talk about this as we go through some of the changes in the lineup, I actually don't think some of that bench is still good enough. I still think there's levels to go. But yeah, it's I'm not complaining. I mean, obviously I'm saying it's boring, but 3 points, 3 points top of the league. I am, but no, 3 points top of the league. So good evening.
I like it, Des. I like it. Good evening indeed. I was wrong. I'm happy to admit it. Don't let my wife hear me because I don't usually apologize very often, but I'm going to do it here. Before the game, I text going, I don't think we'll see many changes. I don't think Arteta has the ability nor the nous or whatever you want to call it to make changes. He hasn't really done it very often. I think we're the lowest in the league this season. And he made those changes, and I kind of then tweeted straight after that when I saw the changes that I also didn't think those changes would be able to hit the ground running. And I think maybe I was a little bit wrong in that respect. I do think that most of those players, and we're going to talk about them, were able to offer something and kind of join that team. And I know that you just said that maybe some of them aren't necessarily cut out for the starting berth. But I'm happy to admit that I'm a bit wrong in that respect. I do think that some of those players did the right thing, did their bit that they needed to, perform to the level that we expected them to against the Luton side, which, like, let's be honest, we only scraped past them in the 97th minute when we played them at Carrow Road.
Different game, different atmosphere, different environment. I don't know that. I can't remember the name of Luton's ground. All I know is it's in
that's Norwich Carrot Road. So I apologise. Yeah. That's completely wrong on my part. But there you go.
All I know is yeah, someone's back garden. That's all I know.
It's got the domino stand. That's the most important thing. So
yeah, clearly. Yeah, no, look, it was a different game to that. You can't compare and contrast these two fixtures in regards to the position we were in the league, the momentum, the elements that we had. You know, the beginning of the season, we talked about the way we were playing, and it wasn't the same way we were playing now with the intensity as we continue to talk about. And there was something, that game was more entertaining, right? That Luton game away, that was the feeling. Remember the feeling you had when Rice scored that winner?
I know, but do you really want to be sat on the edge of your seat in the 97th minute away from home against Luton, or do you want to just be cruising past them to the top of the league, Jace? I mean, we're in this for the long haul. We're in this to win the league. We're not in this to entertain. I said this to someone at work. That 0-0 against Man City, I'm not there to be the spectacle, to be the thing that everyone wanted it to be. I'm there to get a result. And we did what we set out to do.
I don't know how to answer that question because I do want to be entertained. That's part of the reason why I love Arsenal more than other clubs. You know, I had a choice of being a Liverpool fan, and I did it. And my dad basically told me no. At the time, I was very happy that decision. And under the Wenger years, the invincible years, the way we play football, and even in the times when we've not been so good, the way we've been played football. Yeah, don't get me wrong. We could have seen maybe a team I support win more trophies, but I enjoy the entertainment side of how we play. I'll admit it. I, for a number of years, have loved watching Man City because I don't support Man City, but I turn football on to be entertained. And that's the thing. I think that's I struggle a little bit. Like, you're passive in games. And you know the games. I mean, I don't know if you get this, that you know the games that these things are occurring because, like, oh, I'm looking at my phone more. I'm not watching.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
TV
I admit
as much.
I'm kind of aligned to some of that way of thinking. Yeah, I'm not too against it. I just, ultimately, would you rather be here saying we scraped something towards the end, or would you rather be here coasting, resting players? Those two things can not necessarily have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, again, I guess for tonight, I accept that it was probably the sensible thing to rest the players. Brighton away is going to be a hard game at the weekend, and Bayern Munich on next Tuesday is also going to be probably the hardest test, especially just touching on that. Saka injured. I didn't see why. I saw the headline before the game on the Premier League app said he was injured. And then I went and looked at the lineup. But what do you have the detail on that? Is he out for a while?
I'm sure he trained. I'm sure
So
that Arteta said he trained. I would say precautionary. I haven't seen anything to suggest that he's out. I'm sure he was. I saw a photo of him at the ground as well.
Okay.
So I can't see it being anything other than a rest. And it did look pretty jaded at the weekend, if I'm honest. And
Yeah,
he did come off with a slight limp. So, probably needed, in all honesty.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay,
all right.
right.
Should we get into these?
We're getting into the changes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Changes. There's lots of players. A big starting 11 change. There are 5 changes in total. I'm going to give Jason the pick of the bunch. So he can go first. He can choose which player he wants to look at and talk through and say, do you feel that this change was a good one? Do you feel that our player performed? Do you feel that maybe they could get a starting berth in the 11 going forward?
Okay, so I'll start with Zinni. Change necessary? Yep. Kivior needed a rest. He's been playing a lot of games. It could have been Tomiyasu or Zinni, to be fair, that I think started. I have no complaints with Zinni. I said in the last pod, he is the person that you bring in games when you're going to be in a more comfortable position. As soon as he was in, you saw him doing his pivot into the midfield, is dropping in from the left into the centre. I mean, he had a lot of control of the game. It came quite natural, him and Partey. It was actually really refreshing. I won't talk about Partey too much. We still need to talk about him, but it was refreshing to see them two together. A couple of bursting runs through the midfield, but again, there wasn't any end product from that, I don't feel. But solid performance, didn't make any mistakes. Has he done enough to get into the starting berth? No. And that's not a criticism, is just that I don't think anyone's displacing that back four at the moment, which is more, let's say, naturally defensive. with 4 core centre backs. I don't think anyone's replacing them. So yeah,
Do you
good run
think
out
it
for
maybe
Zinni.
depends on the opposition, like in who we can play in that position?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Zinni will in a starting berth depending on the opposition. But I think in the big games, from now to the end of the season, you ain't going to see Zinni starting. I don't think. Unless Arteta feels confident that we can really attack the team, the opposition aggressively, and there's a need for it. I think you're going to see that those 4 centre backs. I think we're kind of going light for light, matching Manchester City at the moment in regards to how we're setting our defence up. So I don't see that changing. I mean, you might get a start against Brighton, maybe away, but Villa at home, Spurs away, United away.
Got Chelsea at home as well. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen there. Bayern Munich, no, 2 games. So it's not going to be many opportunities for him between now and the end of the season. And he's going to have to be happy with that, because I think that's now the role in the squad for him, unfortunately. So go on. Do you want to talk about who you're going to talk about?
I'm going to go the opposite end of the spectrum. I am going to go Reece Nelson. I think Reece was not up to speed with the fluidity and the timing and the dynamism of the game. I don't feel he was ready for it. I feel he just felt a bit off the pace, and I just don't feel that he was necessarily as engaged as, particularly, and maybe, I know you're a big fan of ESR, so I was going to give you the opportunity to maybe talk about him, but he just didn't feel at it. And we've talked a lot on this pod previously about him, having to be an understudy to Saka, or even an understudy to Trossard and Martinelli if necessary. And I just don't. I know you mentioned at the top of the pod there are certain players here that are just not cut out for this level of football. He is one of them. I think he does enough to put himself in the shop window for a Bournemouth, someone of that kind of, a Brentford maybe, someone of that kind of level. They could, and I'm not being, I don't want to downplay those teams, but I think that's more of his level. I just don't feel that he's cut out enough for us.
So I think there are 2 elements to this. So I don't disagree with anything you've said. I think there's probably a bit of a reasoning behind it. His best season was at Hoffenheim in Germany, that 1 year on loan. And I watched a lot of Bundesliga that season because he was there, and Jadon Sancho, who was his best mate, supposedly, was doing well for Dortmund. And it was quite entertaining to watch these two young British wingers playing and ripping it up in the Bundesliga, one on the right and one from the left, and you thought, oh, is this a future England kind of setup? Turns out no, but that was his best season in off the left. I do feel he's better for us on the left than he is on the right. To be just, that's how I see it. I think he's always been better on the left. He goes backwards too much. So there's several times this evening when he collects the ball and you have that chance to drive forward. He kind of took the ball a couple of times, turned on it, turned backwards, and then went backwards. Kind of swiveled around and passed back. He took the safe option, and I'm like, either you're being programmed to do that, which is be a safe deputy for Saka. Don't do anything amazing. Just do your job that you've been asked. And because I saw when he played for Hoffenheim this level of, and even when he used to play wing back under Wenger, like we're talking when he very first came into the side when he was like a kid, he was playing like in the left wing back role and the right wing back role at times. I remember going to watch him in the community. He played in the Community Shield game we went to, and he had this ability to express himself. And that's gone from his game.
Well, that's why I wonder whether or not it's been coached. It's been coached a little bit, because Partey in this game was the safe option, non-stop safe option, continually going backwards. Like there's been a lot of talk of Declan Rice not being a progressive passer. You saw the difference, and Partey has been a progressive passer in the past, but this game was really bad for him, in my opinion. He was a safe pair of feet, if that's the coin of phrase. But he wasn't doing anything to pull this team forward, to make passes between the lines or anything like that. And Nelson was kind of similar. They both felt as risk-averse options in our midfield.
I think Partey, I think Partey performed maybe a little bit better than you described. But he wasn't playing his. I'd agree that we didn't see any of those cutting edge through balls you used to see from him. Where he can just be in
You can
our
take players
half.
out of games, and you just this is I
That's
look at
gone.
Luton. That's why I wonder why he didn't. But there might be an element here when we've seen those passes previously, particularly with the last season when he played with Xhaka. You had the double pivot, and you had one that's forward, one that's back. In this game, he didn't have he had Zinchenko who was inverting, but it's not the same. And so maybe that's why.
I mean, I saw a lot of passing between him and Zinchenko, a bit of passing through the field, but not the element of that blistering little bit of pace he showed with the quick feet to move a midfielder out of the way and cut through, or any of those kind of long balls he used to just kind of play out to the wing. He'll be in our half and he'll play it out across the pitch to the wing onto the other side. I don't think actually though we had the players that he would usually serve with those kind of balls in the squad anyway. I mean, Trossard and Reece don't really provide the same kind of through ball that he would usually play to a Martinelli, for example, in that position. So I don't think he had that bad a game. But I just think must be so much rust in there as well. It's the first game he started.
I mean, it's enough to get some movement through the legs, right? That's more than anything. It's just to get him back up to fitness more than anything.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Go on then. I know you probably want to talk about your boy, so I'll let you.
He got man of the match, didn't he? Well, player of the match. Sorry. By
I mean, from Robbie Savage. So, how much of an award from Robbie Savage can you really take? Is a
world class. He's a world class midfielder, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. He was prime. No. I mean, I quite like Robbie Savage. I used to listen to a podcast he did with Freddie Flintoff and Matthew Said, and I thought he's you see there's the personality, and then there's the
more human side. So,
yeah, and actually, I don't find him as maybe repulsive as some people do. That's quite a blunt word, but I quite like him. But his punditry is a little bit questionable at times, and I wouldn't agree with his player of the match performance for Emile. I think that was Odegaard, but Emile. Again, there's minutes in the legs, right? He had several elements where you can see he's following the instruction because there's a lot of press coming from him as well. He's like, he always used to be it was either Odegaard or Smith Rowe. So it's weird. It was weird to see them both starting together. It's not many times we've seen both of them start together. And if we do see them both start together, it's been with Emile Smith Rowe playing on the left wing. This time he was in the 8 alongside Odegaard. So it was good to see them play together, but I don't think the chemistry is there. You could see several times where the passes between them, they weren't reading each other. They weren't in sync. There was a lot of missed balls from Emile from that perspective, where you can tell he hasn't been playing regularly and built the chemistry with his teammates around him in that kind of left 8 position,
particularly with
Odegaard, and then some with Trossard as well. He wasn't there. Look, he did great for one of the assists. He did great with some of the press. He showed little inklings of what we know he can do, but he's well off the pace. And again, I'm not sure he is going to get the opportunity that I'm not even sure I will see the Emile Smith Rowe that I love again for Arsenal. That's quite sad to say, right?
I also wonder where he kind of fits, not where he kind of fits in, because Odegaard's a machine. For the amount of running that he puts through his legs and the amount of press that he does, he rarely gets injured. He's only had a small spell out on the sidelines. That's the only real position that you kind of feel that Emile could really lock down. Like, even as a left 8, it's kind of like there's so many other players that we've tried in that position. And where else is it? Even as a winger, I don't feel he's got, and we've got other Down the left, we've got more options than the right, but
he can't play as a winger. He's that position has changed and adapted since he used to play there. And he used to play there because Aubameyang didn't want to play there, right? That was why he played there, and our squad's completely different now.
But that's how we broke into the squad originally, right? That changed kind of as the turning point.
Yeah, but also, do you remember how he used to get some of the goals? He used to get some of those goals from coming in on the edge of the box and side-footing it in. You know, he did the most memorable one being against Spurs, right? He used to do that quite often. Who does that now? Who scores those goals now for us? Odegaard. So he, I think that opportunity's gone. The other thing I wanted to bring up, just while we're talking about eights, is someone killed Fabio Vieira? Like, genuinely, he was on the bench, right? I was like, hang on, he's not getting on in this game. Then he's not getting on in this game. Then something's gone wrong. Seriously,
the only thing I could think that he's not at full fitness. That's the only thing I could think of, because he hasn't even come off the bench.
Yeah, but he's been fit for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we've talked about maybe Arteta leaving players out in the cold for reasons, and difficult to reintegrate some of those players back into the squad. My impression is here that Emile Smith Rowe and Eddie Nketiah as well, it's more of a shop window thing. It's more of, I'll give you some minutes so you can advertise yourself to potential buyers more than anything else. Vieira won't be going anywhere, in my opinion. He hasn't even been here that long. I'm sure he's got a long-term contract deal with us that will be. He's more of a long-term deal.
Well, Fabio, the thing I wanted to see Fabio on today, and the reason is because he in a couple of his substitute performances when he's come on in certain games this season, he's taken the game. Yeah, he's taken the game by the scruff of the neck. He collects the ball and drives forward, and that was something I was like, just give him a start against Luton. But I agree, if we're just trying to window dress, and we do need to make some money this summer, that's definite. So you can see the need to probably put Eddie and Odegaard. Odegaard? No, definitely not Odegaard.
Not Odegaard. Get a good price for him.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah, Smith Rowe. Aston Villa, if you want him now, 35 million, come back.
But remember, there was talk of being 50 million from Chelsea in the summer. Like, in all honesty, hindsight's a great thing. Probably should have snapped their hand off.
I don't think that was ever there, mate. I was never there.
Can we did briefly touch upon it. Maybe can we just talk about Eddie? I'm interested in what do you think about his cameo?
Window dressing. What did you see? I didn't see anything. Oh, sorry, I lied. One shot. He went to supposedly gave the keeper the eyes. I don't know if he really can give the keeper the eyes from that far out, but it looked like he was going to whip it in the far corner, and he cut it back to the other corner, and he almost caught the keeper off guard. Keeper made a good save.
I think the only reason it did it, there's a little bit of a deflection in that. It wasn't as good as it was made out to be, I don't think. And I mean, we know Eddie's limitations, and it's just really frustrating. You know, as a player, and you're given 20 minutes in a game where the other team are frankly not very good, and you've got creative players around you that can carve this team open and provide you opportunities. There was one where he got put through and was offside. He just, I don't know. And it just feels like he's a bit petulant, in my opinion. And he's definitely not cut out for us.
This is really interesting because I wonder whether the players that Pep Guardiola brings on for City, the ones that don't always start, they all seem to turn up. And I'm wondering, and Doku, and I look at that and go, why, if we've kept these players in our squad, are they not doing the same thing? Is it genuinely just that they're better quality? Because this is homegrown talent from the borough of London, right, that we're talking about. This is supposed to be one of the best hotbeds for talent in the world. Paris and London and the suburbs. These two cities are basically driving a large percentage of the top quality talent that we're seeing, respectively. and you've had the likes of Jadon Sancho, Reece Nelson, Saka, I forget others, but you've had all these players come through, and I'm like, what is it about Reece and Eddie that don't, or even Smith Rowe, right? That don't. I mean, they're not making it. Is it that
I've got a feeling.
Go on.
Well, I genuinely think that Pep rotates much better than Arteta does, and he integrates those players into the squad more regularly than Arteta does, and gives them the opportunity to play and shine through minutes. We are kind of not forced into it, because we weren't forced into it here, but it was a tactical choice against the opposition. Whereas it seems, I believe, that Pep trusts his players more to perform at the level he expects them to in the games that he needs them to. If you look at the amount of changes we've made, we're significantly lower down that pecking order than Pep is. And I feel that, you know, you're coming into Arteta has got Eddie, he's got Nelson, he's got ESR coming into this game cold, really.
Well, I think it's more that Man City have that established level, right, where they're at a level. We're trying, or we've been for a number of years trying to get to that level. We're just about there now, I'd say, bar a few more signings. Whereas Man City are there established, so to get into that squad, you have to be at a certain standard and you have to be up with the pace. Whereas I feel like Arteta at times is like, you know, how many times we've never taken Saka off because we just need to play him the whole game because we know we can't bring anyone else on to be his level.
But that's what I'm saying. There's an element of trust there, right? That's a trust thing more than anything. Arteta has to trust in his players, and he doesn't.
So, in short, sell ESR, sell Reece Nelson, sell Nketiah, buy a new striker, buy a new winger. Probably don't even bother replacing ESR because we've got Fabio Vieira, we've got Havertz, and we've got Odegaard.
So Jason's advocating for a hail and fire sale in the summer.
Hang on. Let's be careful.
Saka's staying.
Let's be careful. Yeah, there's no criticism of Hale End. You know, I think to get a golden gem once or twice a generation, every 10 years is from your academy is, you know, it's great. Jack Wilshere was one. We've had Saka this gen. I know Jack couldn't help his injuries, so
Nwaneri's going to be next, right?
Yeah, maybe. I'd like to see it. He's the one I want to see come through. I want to see him. I want to see him more game time. But that's the thing, right? Genuinely, why not give some of these guys, if we're guys now, the opportunity? You know, that's perfect time. Luton at home, easy game at home, safe atmosphere. Why not do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, the atmosphere was awful tonight. The crowd seemed awful to me on the TV. I don't know if that came across to you, but it just felt very flat.
Yeah, but it requires one, the team to get the crowd up sometimes, and sometimes it's just the profile of the game that determines how the crowd's going to behave. I guarantee you, next Tuesday against Bayern Munich, that's a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So yeah, you can't read anything to that.
Okay.
Cool.
We got a few viewers in the old channel, so if it is your first time here, please do give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. We are going to move into our next topic. I called this bit because I was having to think while watching the game that it felt like we were playing with our food. We were keeping them at arm's length, and we were effectively just not in the game, in my opinion. And I felt that we were just toying with Luton and could have easily stuck a lot more goals past them and could have easily played more around them. And it's I wanted to know if you agreed, Jason, and what your view overall of kind of our ability to be and lack that killer instinct is what I feel that we missed.
Well, I mean, I'll have you know, Luton have scored more goals than Man United this season. So how shit must Man United be? Sorry, I was.
Let's not say that too ahead before our trip to Old Trafford as well. By the way, let's keep on the down there.
I'm just hooking the United fans in. No, look, it was passive. I think we said this, right? It was such a passive game. I was about to say we were in third gear, right? Or second or third gear. We were nowhere near the level that we were. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For the players who are, you know, for an Odegaard, why the hell we played Odegaard the whole game? I don't know. I mean, that's just a silly decision, knowing that we need him to play away at Brighton at the weekend and we need to go Bayern Munich. I would have played Fabio Vieira, for example. So we're in a lower gear. I think that was energy consumption. It's, not putting ourselves in the red. At the same time, also, I don't think alongside the traditional starting players, the 4 or 5 players that came in, they just weren't at the level. And so you had this kind of just do enough to win the game and get it over the line. And then everyone's pretty content with it. There was nothing on the line tonight. There was nothing critical. As soon as we got the first goal, we knew we were going to win. As I said, Luton looked particularly bad. And if we'd have had our first team out, it would have been a much bigger scoreline, I genuinely believe. So playing with our food, yeah, or maybe just not trying is probably the way I would class it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind
not
of agree with
intentionally.
you. No,
not intentionally.
Well,
because we don't need to.
Yeah, maybe. I just get the sense of we're in the midst of a very tight title race, and you can't be underestimating teams no matter who they are. Not that I feel that we necessarily did, but there was times towards the end of this match, because Luton did have a good second half, and they did not cause us trouble, but they looked like it could be dangerous at times. And there was a bit towards the end where there was a corner come in. I was like, if that goes in, then their questions will start getting asked. And it's some of those moments where 1 goal or 2 goal leads are quite slender. They can turn on a knife edge quite easily. And I feel that there was opportunities for us to put this game to bed much earlier than we did. And like you say, then you can rest an Odegaard, and you can rest Havertz, and you can rest Saka more, because you don't need to keep them on at 3-0 up at 50 minutes, 60 minutes. But it didn't happen, so it's great. I just kind of feel that there was an opportunity there for us to just put it to bed much earlier, and we have lacked that a lot in past games, and it has come back to bite us in past games too.
It has. I just think we're a different squad, right? We still had Saliba and Gabriel in the back playing a pretty easy game and just mopping everything up that came at us. So you're right. It was risky in theory. But
maybe I've got no trust, Jace. Maybe we talked about trust. Maybe it's me. I've got trust issues.
Well, I didn't want to say. Look, we conceded 4 goals in 2024. I think that's the stat still. We're now in April, right? So that's 3+ months now and counting. We've not conceded really hardly anything in the league. So again, I'm going to touch this fake MDF here and pray that it stays consistent. But defense is really, really strong, that I don't think we have to worry about those things as much anymore. It's not like it's David Luiz playing at the back, or Skodra and Mustafi playing at the back, or Per, who's a great defender but can't chase a player. Unfortunately, we don't have those challenges anymore. So we have,
and what a time to be alive.
The two best we arguably have the 2 best centre backs in the league, bar Van Dijk. So I'm not worried about that.
All right, love it. Right, we're going to do a man of the match. I know that you mentioned it, and I think, judging by everything that you said so far, I'm going to hazard a guess who I think it is, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to hand the baton to you, Jace. Who is your man of the match in this game?
I think I did say it right. Odegaard, hands down. I mean, they gave it to Emile. I think that was a bit of a naive choice. As I said, he played an okay game, a bit rusty, and it wasn't the Emile of old. I don't think just because of a little bit of a press and 1 assist. When you look at the way Odegaard played, you could give Emile the player of the match. Like, Odegaard he got the goal. I love the goal. The finish, the way he took that finish, with the kind of what did I made a note on that. I called it the swoosh, which is like kind of that back swoosh he did with his left foot, where he put a bit of twang on it and it kind of went back on itself into the corner. I think I remember Ozil scoring a goal like that a long time ago. The way he took that finish of a technique was lovely. His good connection with Havertz, that he's the way he was trying to thread. He was the only one trying to do stuff tonight, right? He always is the only one trying to do stuff. And you have to command his command, praise his efforts. For me, he stand out. He was our best player on the pitch, and not much more to add to that. So it's just you can't really add too much more to that because it's Odegaard, right? He's pretty consistent every game.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against it. Like I say, I think maybe ESR's nomination was more biased towards his involvement in both goals. He won the ball back for the first goal. He obviously set up the second goal that ended up being an own goal. So probably it's just partly his involvement in both of those sticks in your mind. I was to not choose Odegaard as well. I mean, I will say that Odegaard obviously had a good game. He's like the metronome. He just keeps it ticking over the entire game. He really adds to our rhythm. He really kind of connects both the front and the back. How he continues to press in these games and run for the entirety of that game and still feel like he's got energy to run around is beyond me. It makes me tired just looking at him. Doesn't take a lot for me nowadays, to be honest. I was going to give a shout out to Ben White. I feel that there was a moment in it, some of his silky smooth like skills in the middle of the park. It's like he's taken his idea to not play for England, that he wants to go and play for Brazil instead, and has decided to just turn on the Brazilian flair. So straight from Sao Paulo, Benny Blanco is turning up, and I just like he really is turning on another gear at right back, and he was everywhere as well. It's not just in the right back position, but he was great this game. And he's been very consistent this year in general, and no one's going to displace him in that right back position in our settled games.
No, he was doing a lot of, as you say, he was everywhere. There's a lot of 1-2s in the park that I was seeing. That turn in the middle of the midfield was just, that was beautiful, right? No one expected that coming. And then he was just messing around doing little Cruyff passes with it, or one he did around the box. But I made a note, I think it was on 40 minutes we did the Cruyff terms, like Ben White, he might not like football, but he's fucking good at it. Because it's just it's he's I love the fact that he's pulled away from England, because if you don't feel good about something, don't waste your energy on it. That's not a criticism of saying you shouldn't play for the national team, but if that's it benefits us, and clearly he had some challenges there, so putting his positive energy into some things that he can impact, and he clearly feels he has a point to prove, and he just goes out and is consistent every week. So I'd second your thoughts on him. I don't know if Odegaard's still man of the match for me, or player of the match, but good performance from him as always.
It's not a Rip Roaring Red podcast either without Jason sticking the knife in Southgate every chance he gets. So
I didn't say nothing about Southgate.
Hey,
I didn't say anything in this podcast.
You didn't have to, Jace. I can read it. Right. We've come to the end of talk of this game. We've kept it relatively short because, like I say, pretty passive and boring game in some places. Let's go to the parking lot. We've got a game against Brighton this weekend.
Yeah.
Do you think that those 5 changes just go back and we go back to the standard starting 11 in that game?
Yeah, I think so. Saturday, it's a 5:30 kickoff, right? It's not lunchtime.
It is,
it's
yeah.
5:30.
Yeah, it's 5:30.
So that worries me a little bit, because the Bayern Munich game's on the Tuesday. So I don't know how early the TV fixtures were scheduled. That's a little bit worrying. Surely it's in the interests of, because Liverpool, they'll be playing on the Sunday, right? Because they've got a game on the Thursday. Yep. But we've got a game on the Tuesday, and we're still only playing the late kickoff on a Saturday. I don't like sometimes how these games fall for Europe, and how the Premier League doesn't adjust time, at least timings accordingly. I think a lunchtime kickoff would have been so much more sensible. If we got to be on TV, fine, but then make it a lunchtime kickoff, and I don't know if you'll probably tell me now that Man City are playing at lunchtime instead. I don't know.
I'm gonna have a look for you. They are, Jace. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why. Great, because they've got Real Madrid on at the same time, the same evening. But then in that case, put 2 games on at 12:30.
It's not allowed. It's against the rules.
So we're the ones that lose out and have to play Bayern Munich with less time than our other fellow English teams, and surely it's in everyone's interest that we at least do well against Bayern Munich, because everyone else wants
interesting as well.
Well, yeah, but also everyone in England, all the English teams want that extra place in the extra places in Europe, right? So that relies on the English clubs who are left in the competition doing well. So that worries me a little bit. In regards to the squads, I think it'll be pretty much unchanged from the Man City game. I think that was the intent, right? Was that we know we're going to have two big games.
Do you think Martinelli comes back in for Jesus? I think played on the wing against City.
No, I think Jesus starts.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because he was completely rested this evening.
True. Yeah.
Else he might have come on for Trossard earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I was looking at, because I was trying to think that Brighton don't have anything to play for. They drew this evening against Brentford away from home. But looking at the table, there's a chance they could sneak into the conference or the Europa League, because there's still not a lot separating between like 6th and like 11th. So they still got something to play for, which is unfortunate. You would have hoped that by now they might have been a little bit on the beach, and they might not be as engaged as we'd hoped.
Yeah, they have a habit though of doing well, especially against when the big teams come. They play well. I mean, they couldn't have done us a favour last weekend, but against Liverpool. But yeah, I feel like they'll turn up. They always turn up at the Amex against Arsenal. I don't know if you've observed that. I
always
like
thought it was at the Emirates where we get turned over. It was only this year where we kind of removed the jinx. Don't say it now, right. Jace. God.
I think Brighton are a little bit of our bogey team, and Dezibri can pull out a formation to annoy Arteta. I mean, I think he could. Obviously, he's a Liverpool manager candidate, right? So I can see.
There are banana skins. I don't feel this is our banana skin. I feel that Spurs, United, Chelsea, they're the ones that are gonna. If we slip up, they're the ones that are probably going to slip us up. I don't think.
Villa at home. That's the banana skin.
Oh,
yeah.
Honestly, I was doing this myself, right? And I let me just read you, because I obviously I didn't watch the City game because it was on at the same time as us, but this was Villa's starting lineup when I was reading it, and I was like, who? So they had Robin Olsen in goal. I'm assuming that
Martinez
is injured or out. Then they had Carlos, Konza, Digne, and Lenley in the back. Most of those I'm kind of like, what? Not even. I mean, Konza's good, and Digne's not. I can say that much. Douglas Luiz, Moussa Diaby, Zanilo, Rogers.
They've got players injured.
I can't even pronounce this guy's name. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they come to the Emirates with that type of squad, we will ruin them, Jace. We will ruin them.
They had Bailey and Tielemans on the bench, Moreno on the bench, Pau Torres on the bench. And Ollie Watkins is injured. They had a lot of players missing. And I've just checked and saw, okay, that game's now finished. They got smashed 4-1 by City in the end.
And Bowden got a hat-trick.
Yeah. And they couldn't do it.
Anyway, we don't need to worry about City, right, Jace? Liverpool are the ones we need to worry about right now. As long as we keep doing our thing, that's all that really matters. And we did it tonight, and I think we're going to do it on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, go on then, score prediction.
I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
Oh, we've gone 2-1. That means he's a bit worried. That means you're a bit worried.
You just said we conceded 4 goals this year. So why am I even... 2-0. 2-0. I retract my goal that they've scored.
3-1.
It's not like Jason to predict 3-1. There you go. You heard it here first.
3-1 Arsenal. There's always one. No, that's not worked out well for me this half.
It's not. You're right. Maybe you're coaxing it back to life somehow. I don't know why.
No, I think I'm a good luck charm. If I say 3-1, that means we won't concede.
It's like the real reverse psychology.
For anyone's context, Grev and another friend of ours, we do a score prediction for every game, and then we tally up the scores and the points. And
are you winning at the moment as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 5 points clear of so I'm top of the league, and Arsenal top of the league, and yeah, so
and he's still not happy.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
Right. A pleasure for you all to join us this evening. We'll be back again at the weekend to review and look at the post-match analysis of Brighton versus Arsenal. Until then, have an enjoyable rest of your week, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Have a good one, guys.
Come on, you